It looked odd, but the DUKW carried victory across water and land. In the vast arsenal of World War II, few vehicles were as peculiar or as pivotal as this one. It was part truck, part boat, and all business. Officially designated the DUKW, it was affectionately nicknamed the Duck by the soldiers who relied on it. This amphibious truck wasn't just an engineering marvel. It was a lifeline, a game-changer that redefined military logistics, and played a starring role in one of history's most critical operations, the D-Day landings in Normandy. The story of the Duck begins not on the battlefield, but in the world of civilian innovation. The initial concept was developed by a yacht design firm, Sparkman and Stevens, in collaboration with General Motors Corporation. The U.S. military needed a vehicle that could solve a persistent problem: how to move men and supplies from ships anchored offshore directly to the front lines, without relying on vulnerable ports or makeshift docks. Traditional logistics involved a slow, multi-step process, unloading cargo from large ships onto smaller landing craft, which then had to unload at a beach or pier where trucks would finally take over. This chain was slow, inefficient, and created massive bottlenecks, especially during an amphibious assault. The DUKW was the elegant, if unconventional, solution. The name itself is a piece of military industrial code. D indicated the model year, 1942. U meant it was a utility vehicle. K signified all-wheel drive, and W meant it had dual rear axles. Put it all together, and you get DUKW. The design was deceptively simple. Engineers took the chassis of the standard 2.5-ton GMC-CKW cargo truck, a workhorse of the U.S. Army, and encased it in a watertight steel hull. It was a true hybrid. On land, it operated like a normal 6-wheel drive truck, capable of navigating rough terrain. But with the flip of a few levers, it transformed. A propeller at the rear and a rudder for steering were engaged, and the Duck could enter the water and cruise at a respectable 6 miles per hour. One of its most ingenious features was a centralized tire inflation system, allowing the driver to adjust tire pressure from inside the cab. They could deflate the tires for better traction on soft sand, and then reinflate them for driving on hard surface roads, all without stopping. Its first major test came during the invasion of Sicily in 1943. While some commanders were initially skeptical of this strange-looking machine, the Ducks quickly proved their worth. They ferried ammunition, food, and medical supplies from ship to shore with astonishing efficiency, bypassing the congested beaches and delivering crucial material directly to where it was needed. The success in Sicily was a prelude to its most famous moment. On June 6, 1944, the Allies launched Operation Overlord, the invasion of Normandy. The success of D-Day hinged on the ability to land an overwhelming force of men and equipment, and to sustain them in the brutal fight that would follow. The Germans knew this. Their coastal defenses, the Atlantic Wall, were designed not just to repel the initial assault, but to make resupply impossible. The Allies had a secret weapon in their plan for 2 massive artificial harbors, called mulberries, but these would take time to construct and were vulnerable to weather. In the critical opening hours and days of the invasion, it was the DUKW that filled the gap. As the landing craft hit the beaches of Utah and Omaha, the first waves of Ducks were right behind them. They motored off the ramps of larger transport ships, loaded with pallets of ammunition, boxes of rations, and jerrycans of fuel. While landing craft got stuck on sandbars or were destroyed by enemy fire, the Ducks navigated the choppy waters of the English Channel, powered through the surf, and drove straight up the sandy bluffs. They didn't stop at the water's edge. They kept going, driving past the chaos of the beachhead, past wrecked vehicles and shell craters, and delivered their cargo directly to inland assembly points and artillery batteries. Imagine the scene from the perspective of a soldier pinned down on Omaha Beach. Your ammunition is running low, casualties are mounting, and it seems like the entire operation is on the brink of failure. Then, emerging from the smoke and spray, comes this bizarre boat truck, driving out of the ocean like a creature from a myth. It rolls past you, loaded high with the very supplies needed to turn the tide. It was a morale booster and a logistical miracle rolled into one. The Ducks were relentless. They would drop off their cargo, turn around, drive back into the sea, and head out to the transport ships for another load. This continuous loop, this ship too short to frontline express, was something the enemy had never anticipated. The versatility of the DUKW was its greatest asset. It could carry 25 fully equipped soldiers or 5,000 pounds of cargo. It was used as a mobile ambulance, ferrying wounded soldiers from the chaos of the beach directly to the hospital ships waiting offshore, saving countless lives. When artillery pieces were needed urgently, Ducks were able to carry 105mm howitzers, complete with their crews and a basic load of ammunition, directly from ship to firing position. This ability to deliver combat power exactly where it was needed, bypassing all the logistical hurdles, gave Allied commanders a flexibility they had never had before. General Dwight D. Eisenhower, the supreme Allied commander, was effusive in his praise for the vehicle. He recognized that without the DUKW and other specialized vehicles, the landings at Normandy would have been far more difficult and perhaps impossible. By the end of the first day, Ducks had landed a significant portion of the supplies that kept the invasion going. In the months that followed, as the Allies pushed inland, the Ducks continued to play a vital role. When bridges were destroyed, the Ducks simply swam across rivers like the Seine and the Rhine, keeping the supply lines open and the advance moving. They proved indispensable in the Pacific theater as well, hopping from island to island, delivering supplies in environments where ports were non-existent. The legacy of the DUKW extends far beyond World War II. It fundamentally changed military thinking about amphibious operations and logistics. The concept of a vehicle that could seamlessly transition from sea to land became a cornerstone of modern military doctrine, leading to the development of the sophisticated amphibious assault vehicles used by Marine forces around the world today. But the Duck itself didn't just fade into history. After the war, many were sold as military surplus. They found new life in civilian roles, serving as rescue vehicles in flood-prone areas, as exploration vehicles in remote wetlands, and most famously, as tourist attractions. The Duck tours that operate in cities like London, Boston, and Singapore are a direct legacy of this remarkable wartime machine, giving people a small taste of its unique capabilities. So the next time you see footage from D-Day or see a colorful tourist duck splashing into a river, remember its origins. Remember the odd-looking truck that became a boat, the vehicle that defied expectations and delivered victory. The DUKW was more than just a piece of machinery. It was a symbol of ingenuity and adaptability. It was the unglamorous, unstoppable workhorse that swam the English Channel, climbed the beaches of Normandy, and carried the hopes of the free world on its back. It proved that sometimes the most successful solutions are the ones that dare to be different. It wasn't a tank or a fighter plane, but in the complex machinery of war. The humble duck was just as essential to winning.